You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with Jacob Morrison.
Lonely dead, stuck, bleeding pig. Lonely did shot, choose to dead.
Labor is entitled to all it creates. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host and fellow agitator Adam Keller. That's just an important reminder, folks. You don't need your boss needs you. So I have some really cool sound for last week in Southern Labor, but we're running so short on time that we're not going to play it. We're not going to play it this week, but I really do like it, and it pains me because I spent a very long time making that sound. But it's good, and you should hear it on some of our other stuff. But let's go ahead and get right into it.
That's why you stay tuned.
Stay tuned for next week. Maybe we'll have time to play it then. Last week in Southern Labor, this time it's actually what happened 2 weeks ago in Southern Labor, because we're a week behind, and so is Jonah Furman. He hasn't released his newsletter this week, so that gives us time to catch up as well. Jonah Furman does a weekly newsletter on what happens in U.S. labor. You can subscribe to get what happens in the rest of U.S. labor on whogetsthebird.substack.com. Yeah, that's it. Jonah Furman on Substack.com. So let's jump right into it. It was a pretty slow week for the Southern organizing, but there was actually a lot in the rest of U.S. labor. So this would be a really good time to jump on while he's a week behind. You can jump on, catch up, and find what happened in the rest of U.S. labor, because there wasn't a whole lot that happened down in the South a couple of weeks ago. So for new organizing, there was only one thing happening there, and that was 14 electricians for Brent Electric in Tulsa, Oklahoma, are voting on whether to join IBEW Local 584. There was one loss. 10 workers at Industrial Glass Supply. There was one loss. 10 workers at the industrial gas supplier Praxair in Austin, Texas, deadlocked 5-5, which means they did not join the Teamsters Local 657. There are a couple updates on strikes and bargaining. Of course, we just gave you a big update on the coal miners' strike down in Brookwood. They're still on strike, could still use your support. And Local 1199 in Florida is pushing for a hazard pay provision because of the coronavirus. There is a big update. The biggest update on politics and legislation is that Politico took a look at how labor is responding to the idea of a vaccine mandate, and the answer is unevenly. The AFL-CIO's Richard Trumka, may he rest in peace, came out in favor of a mandate, while the AFL's largest affiliate, AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, came out vocally against one. The issue is not quite whether members should get vaccinated, but whether that should be mandated, with the implication of punitive measures for those who do not get the shot. And it's not falling along the same culture war lines as the general public's vaccine conversations seem to be, with usually liberal unions like 1199 SEIU being some of the most vocal opponents, and actually existing mandates have popped up unevenly as well, with the largest one set to be announced, or that has been announced, as Joe Biden mandates, but refuses to say mandate, the 2 million federal employees to get a shot or submit to weekly testing.
And the main thing here, the union position, and not to overgeneralize too much, but basically unions are taking the position of any kind of vaccine mandate, we should be at the table to discuss that, right, what that looks like, the implementation, what are the penalties. And I think that is a very reasonable response, and that's the union's job, is to advocate for the workers and to make sure they're at the table with any decisions that impact workers. So it's not the same as to say that they're anti-vaccine by any stretch of the imagination. Right. So I think it's important to have that distinction, especially as mainstream media often loses that distinction.
And it's interesting, It really is just over the ability to bargain for your working conditions, which is a fundamental cause of labor. And Leo Gertner on Twitter is a labor lawyer, and he had an interesting idea that unions should come to the table with the willingness to accept a vaccine mandate, but only in exchange for a minimum of 15 days of paid sick leave per year, like having that put into law if a vaccine mandate is going to be issued out by the government. And I think that would be a really good really good compromise position, because obviously vaccines are good, vaccines are effective, everybody needs to get vaccinated, and you should do your research about them, because if you do your research properly, you will find that what I am saying is the case. But also, unions should fight for other things. And the fact is that there are side effects to the vaccine. It wasn't terrible for me. It felt like I had a little bit of a cold, but fortunately enough for me, I do have paid sick leave, and so I took the day off because I wanted to. I had a headache. I didn't feel great. I could have gone into work, didn't want to, so I took sick leave. Everybody should be able to do that, especially if vaccination is going to be mandatory.
Right, and I also think it's kind of funny that we mentioned Politico, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but just this week, Politico's owner wrote a very nice long letter to all of his employees describing on why they should not join a union. Yeah. We've seen a wave of media and newsroom union drives. It's just catching on like wildfire. Apparently some of the workers at Politico would like to unionize, and fingers crossed that will improve their content. But their boss just doesn't really think that's the right fit for their culture. And it was kind of a laundry list of all the anti-union talking points you can imagine, but dressed up in much more flowery liberal language.
If you want to see what we are up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/The Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. And if you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, you can search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we clip segments and release them throughout the week. We do upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So to see if we are on your listening platform of choice, you can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. We've got a website where you can buy our hats and stickers. That's thevalleylaborreport.org. We've only got 2 hats left. We are down to 2 hats. So the next 2 people that order a hat will be the last folks that get one. I don't know when we're going to get another round. So if you want one of those hats, go ahead and place your order, thevalleylaborreport.org. And finally, if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then the best way that you can do that is throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.